Welcome, welcome. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to come out and see what it's all about. As I understood, we are like sort of like in the middle of nowhere, and still very, I mean, it's still very cool to see that the turn up is very high. Um, Tonight we're gonna discuss all the new features that you can find inside of Cubase 7.5, and I'd like to start out to see with a question to see with whom am I dealing here with, and first of all, how many of you guys is already working with Cubase? Okay, Cubase 7.5. Oh. Still got some work to do here. Okay, and and the rest of you guys that's on Cubase, which version is?
Seven.
Seven?
Six.
Six?
Five.
Five? Yeah. Original version? Okay. And the rest of you guys, what are you producers? Are you working with DAWs? And so, what DAW? So the ones who didn't point up the fingers.
Sequel.
Sequel? Who? Who said that? Oh, you sir. Sequel 3?
No.
Se-
LE.
Sequel LE.
Yeah.
Love it?
Well, just started with it, so.
It's a really entry level DAW indeed. But if you're creative enough, you'll be able to create some mayhem. The rest of you guys, any people on Logic or Logic? Ableton, any Ableton users? One. And Pro Tools? Okay. So I will focus on you two guys here. No, I'm just kidding. I will just talk about what sets Cubase 7.5 apart, okay, from the rest. So let's just start off with the mandatory slideshow. I'm sorry, it's mandatory. Can't do without it. So basically, what's new is at least the track versions, okay? You can now create alternate versions of a track or a track group and instantly switch between those versions. Very handy if you have like a guitar player which played a guitar solo, but he left the studio, and now you're realizing in the mixing process, oh wow, that solo really sucks. And of course, you can do it better. So you grab out your guitar, okay, and you record a new solo. But it will allow you to keep that older version, so you don't have to like throw it away or something and piss the guitar player off, okay? So it's a really cool way to create alternate versions, and it also applies like a tempo. You may not decide which tempo to use, like 120 or 100 BPM. With the track version, you can easily switch between those BPMs without having to close down the project and open up a new project. We will have the track visibility management, and for the guys of you who already is working with Cubase 7, okay, the track visibility management is something you will know from the mix console, and the mix console basically what the track visibility does is show and hide tracks, okay? You will still be able to hear them, but you can just hide them. Especially cool if you're working on a really large project and you just want to focus on the drum parts. Okay, you can hide all the rest and just really focus on the drums. And of course, you can create custom view sets. The instant transient navigation, if you're really working with sample and drum loops and whatnot, you don't have to go to the sample editor anymore to create hit points, to calculate the hit points, because they are calculated automatically. And the re-record mode is something I really love, especially when I'm recording my band. You know, me and my guitar player, perhaps you'll notice that me and guitar players, yeah, I don't know, we don't really mix. But he's my best friend, okay? He's my best friend, but he's really picky when we're recording. So with the re-record mode, I really can save up some time in the end. And you know, time saving for me is very good. Keeps me motivated, keeps me creative. So the track quick controls also, if you have like MIDI controllers, you can assign parameters to your quick controls, but you can also assign quick controls to the track you're working with, okay? And additional scoring features. How many of you guys is working with the scoring feature, with the score editor? Anyone? Whew. Luckily, because as you may find out, I'm not really a musician. Shh, don't tell anybody. I don't know which chords I'm playing, and I don't have to be ashamed of it. Luckily, you know, some of the greatest musicians in the world didn't know how to read or read sheet music or whatnot. But if you're working with scoring, you will be happy to know that now you can do some MIDI editing right there in the score editor, so you don't have to swap between the key editor and the scoring editor.
Sorry, Michael.
Yes.
The mute button on your headset.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, it is.
Thank you.
So now, oh wow. All is lost now? We need to start over again?
No, it's okay. I have other microphones here.
You
Just
have-
for the
ah,
recording.
okay.
Vi spelar in detta precis som vi gjorde sist för vår YouTube-kanal. Så det han säger kan ni lyssna på 3000 gånger till när ni är hemma.
Yeah, some serious live broadcasting going on here.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
NBC Live.
Yeah, NBC Live, yes. I told you guys already not to film the right part of my face because, you know, okay. The instrument track 2.0. In Cubase, you can create 3 types of tracks, okay? Basically, you can create audio tracks, you can create MIDI tracks, and you can create instrument tracks. With 7.5, we really took it to the edge, and the instrument track, you can now easily utilize the multi-timbral function. For instance, Halion Sonic SE. If you have an instrument that is multi-timbral, now with an instrument track, you can utilize those extra outputs. And I will show you guys in a bit what it all means. Groove Agent SE4 is my new best friend. Me myself, I'm a hip hop producer, and you know, when I start out with a project, the first thing I do is drum programming. So Groove Agent 1 used to be my best friend, but unfortunately for Groove Agent 1, I have a new best friend in town, and it's called the Groove Agent SE4. The Halion Sonic SE. We already came to the second version of it, and it comes now with a synth trip module. And basically, if arpeggiators is your thing, it gets you hot, then trip is something you should play with. You know, basically it comes with 150 modules with all types of synths in arpeggiator styles, and you can really go in depth and change those arpeggiators. You mean like change the variations of the arpeggiators. And the EDM toolbox, you know, every time we release a new product, you will read something along the line of, yes, we included hundreds of MIDI loops. And unfortunately, not many people know where to find those MIDI loops. Okay, so I will show you guys in a bit where you can find, I think it's, EDM, I think it stands for Exotic Drugs and Medicine Toolbox. Or it could be electronic dance music. I don't know which one you prefer to use. Okay, but basically it comes with construction kits, and it can really fast up your workflow. And of course, we added some new effects. The Revelation Reverb, which is an algorithmic reverb, and it really simulates the hardware of the 80s, the hardware reverbs we had in the 80s. And it's something really cool to play with. And okay, I got a trick question. How many of you guys knows about the loop mash instrument? It's been here since Cubase 5 actually. So, you know, that is something very cool, you know, you can say about Cubase. It's really a complete pack of software, okay? So loop mash instrument, the instrument of loop mash has been around since Cubase 5, and basically what we've done with this new plugin is take the controls that you will find in the loop mash, such as stuttering and some scratching and whatnot, and put it in a new plugin. And I will show you guys in a bit how you can really start to act like you're David Guetta in your studio dancing all night long. And a Magneto 2. It's a tape saturation effect, and it's really cool. I use it all the time because it has like a tape solo function, and when you press that tape solo function, it can tell you in what range you're adding saturation, you know, because often some of my friends might go like, okay, I created this new song, you should listen to it, and the saturation really finished my whole mixing process. And I'm like, okay, let me listen. And he's like, yeah, listen to it, it's the saturation. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to hear here? And you know, it could be a real head-breaking to know. So with the tape solo, you can really specify what frequency range you're adding saturation with. The VST Connect SC2 is it's a revolution, because now when I get back home and I'm from Holland, you know, you sir, if you have an internet connection, we can collaborate over the internet. I mean, that's some Star Trek thing going right there. And you know, it's really funny to say that it really worked. Yes. So I don't have like something I could really show you guys right here, but I will show you how it really works and just try to explain it. And hope you can see the benefit of the VST Connect SE2. Okay, so with that, I'm starting to notice that I've been really not so unmannered, because of course I've already been introduced as Michael Gomes, product specialist from Steinberg, but it would be handy to tell you guys a bit of my background. And basically I've been rapping for like over 20 years, you know, and making music for over 16-18 years. First started out with an Atari ST and an actual sampler. Guess what? The sampler could only sample for 6 seconds, and that was all I had, you know. But boy, did I made some beats in those days, okay? And it's really funny to see that nowadays we're just spoiled, okay? I'm trying to explain to these young guys all the time, like, they'll be complaining, oh, I don't have sounds, and they have a sound library of literally tens and thousands of presets. And I'm like, come on, man. You know, where I'm from, the GM sound card that came along with every PC was the only thing I had. Okay, so yes, so that's a little bit about me. And the first half of my workshop, I will show you guys a little bit about the Instrument Tracks 2.0, about the EDM toolbox, and how you can find, where you can find those MIDI loops, and how to create your own MIDI loops. And then I will show you guys a little bit about Groove Agent SE, which is my new best friend. Okay, and so let's start off from there. What is Instrument Tracks 2.0? As I told you guys, in Cubase, you're capable of creating 3 types of tracks you can work with. Okay, it's an audio track, an instrument track, and a MIDI track. And now, first I would like to start off by asking how many of you always use MIDI tracks? Why, sir?
It's easy to play with a piano.
Yes.
MIDI's work.
So you have a synthesizer or a keyboard and you like the sounds of it,
Yeah.
and you use it as a MIDI. Yes, so that would be an excellent way to still use, you know, a MIDI track. If you have MIDI hardware, of course, the MIDI would be the way. But I guess that since you're the only one that raised your finger, then I assume that everybody else uses instrument tracks. Am I correct? So if you're, for the ones of you then who are, you know, creating production, or who are doing productions, you will use an instrument track. Okay, basically there is no difference. Basically, okay, you can do with an instrument track what you could do with a MIDI track, besides a couple of key features. Okay, with a MIDI track, when you create a MIDI track, for instance, you will have to create an instrument in the rack instrument, and you will find the VST instruments, of course, here in the devices, the VST instruments, okay? It used to be like a black little thing with blue lines, okay? It underwent a facelift, so this is how it looks like now, the VST instruments. And you will see a line here, and on top of it, you load up the instruments, like the real instruments, and down here, you will add like you will add a MIDI instrument just like you are used to. Okay, so basically we have Hellion here and we have Hellion here. And let me just turn down my, yes. Okay, but they are slightly different because this instrument here corresponds to the MIDI track that I've just created. And as you may know, you know, a MIDI track comes with a folder and another folder in it, and it's all free. You know, it's a present. And somehow it just stays there. And now that I've created a MIDI instrument, I will have to create a MIDI track. And once I set up that MIDI track, I will have to tell it to use, you know, my MIDI track. So there's a lot of assigning I need to do manually. It's a few mouse clicks, and if that is what you're used to, you won't think about it that much because it's just second nature. But creating an instrument track goes slightly more faster. It's just creating an instrument track and just selecting whatever instrument you want to go with it, add track, okay, and the instrument gets loaded and you're set to go. You're ready to record. Okay, here comes another slight difference between an instrument track and a MIDI track. As in, back in the days, an instrument track would mean that you could only use left and right as an output. Okay, so a Hellion Sonic SE, which is a multi-timbral instrument, you know, which really means you can use up to 16 programs, really didn't mean much to an instrument track because you couldn't use all these programs. As in a MIDI track, you could. Like, for instance, you can Google any MIDI file you want to, any song you would like to, you know, and in this instance, I Googled Avicii. Wake me up. Let's just open it. You know, and you have a MIDI project, and basically there is just one instant of Hellion Sonic SE, okay? But if we take a closer look at the Hellion Sonic, you will see that in this MIDI file, which you can also create, of course, there are all different types of instruments, and only one instant of Hellion Sonic SE is being used. Okay. These are all GM sound banks. Of course, you can go ahead and just add your own instruments now to it and really create something cool. But you get the idea, you know. I mean, this was like the only need to really use a MIDI track in Cubase. So now with an instrument track, you can also utilize this very easily. And I will show you guys how. So the Hellion Trip right here, let's bring it out. This is an instrument track. You can recognize it by the sort of piano thing right there. Okay, let's just take a listen. This is, by the way, the sound trip, the trip sound module. Let's just say I want to create I want to add like a bass now. So I'll just go ahead and add a bass to the second program. and I'll add like a lead synth something. And perhaps, I don't know, a violin. Let's just go crazy. Okay, so now I have 4 programs loaded. Okay, and since this is a instrument track, okay, I will go to the mix capability of it, and all I have to do is just assign the outputs of those programs. And now I'm able to use the multi-timbral function of Hellion Sonic SE in an instrument track. Of course, I will have to like assign it. And open up the outputs, activate the outputs right here in the inspector. So I can activate all outputs. I can go ahead and manually assign all these outputs here and just save it as a default preset. That way, each time I open up Hellion Sonic SE, you know, all the routing has already been done. So I don't have to do it all over again. Okay? So you can leave this blank, or you can leave this with a, of course, with a like a preset, like if you know you're always going to use a bass or a drum or a synth, you can load those programs and save it as a default preset. Why is this so cool? Well, I'll tell you. Me myself, when I make projects, I will use about 12 to 14 instrument tracks. Okay, now. Our computers are getting faster and faster each day, but still, using 14 separate instrument tracks will consume a lot of processing power, especially if I want to add some compression to them, if I want to add reverb and all those types of stuff. And basically, 6 to 8 of those instrument tracks are all drums, you know, because I'm old-fashioned. I record my hi-hat on a separate track, my kick on a separate track, my snare on a separate track, percussion, cymbal, right, you know. And basically, I'm just using 6 instances of Groove Agent and dividing them on 6 tracks. While now on an instrument track, I can just utilize one Groove Agent and just route the outputs to different channels, and it will correspond to the mix console. As you can see here, you know, I just activated all the outputs in the inspector, so I have 16 out, and in the mix console it will correspond, so you will see 16 channels you can mix out separately. Okay, so you don't need to be all goofy about it and really make it harder for yourself. So let's just take a look at how I could use the EDM toolbox, for instance. I'll just go ahead and delete these. Okay. Anyone who has an idea where I can find MIDI loops in Cubase? Where I could find WAV files?
Media.
Thank you. Do you use it, sir?
Yes.
Yes? You get a t-shirt from me. Yes? Ask me later. I have one for you. Yes, Media Bay. Why? Media Bay is also something that's been here for ages in our system, and unfortunately, not a lot of people knows about it. What is Media Bay? Very simple. It's a Google for your Cubase. Okay, everything that has to do with presets, with sound, with WAV files. You could even categorize your iTunes library and listen to your songs via Media Bay, and thus easily import it inside of your project. Okay, so basically you open up Media Bay and you will go to the VST sound, okay, and let's just see. the EDM toolbox. Yes, MIDI loops. So you could just go ahead and you will see that every folder comes with over 30 MIDI loops, and we can just take a listen to it. You just have to select it, and these are MIDI loops. And if dance music is a bit your thing, of course, you could easily start a project and just create your own thing. As for instance, what I love to do is just listen to the drum loops. And you know, if you find something you like, all you have to do is just double click, and you know, it gets created for you. And since it's with Cubase 7.5, of course, we couldn't leave out to use the groove agent. The groove agent is being used here to use the multiple outputs that comes with the groove agent. So if we open up here, you will see now, okay, that this groove agent SE comes with different types of tracks. So it's only one event, okay, and the kick, the drums, the hi-hat's already been routed, and to top it off, it's also been processed, such as like equalization or inputs, you know, like inserts, compression and whatnot. So this is already sounding really good. I mean, you don't have to do anything about it really. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and take a closer look to the media bay, because what I like to do is I like to layer my drums, you know, just to give it a little bit of extra. Shh, don't tell anybody. But of course, if you're a dance producer, you already know everything about layering. You might also know about it if you're really doing like the real heavy metal stuff, you know, that kick that comes, it's not an act, you know, it gets layered. That's why it's get that like that humongous feel of it. And in hip hop, of course, you also layer out like kicks or a clap and a snare. So
ABBA started doing that.
oh really? Oh, okay. So it's nothing new is under the sun, of course, you know. And I'm sure that when ABBA started doing it, the people that were in charge of music in those days were like, it's absolutely nonsense. We don't like it. Please bring back the old school. And nowadays, you know, we really can't do without it. Okay, so let's just, you know, I'm liking the sound of it. Just double click this right here and see what I've done. I just created a new D beat, and of course the kick has already been processed, everything. It's already sounding really nice. And I might want to copy this event and show you guys a really cool trick. If you press Shift and Alt and grab this event and slide it down, you will create a ghost copy. Why is this handy? Now I can tell you, if you create, like, if you're in the, let's just say you just finished the song, you edit it, you arranged it, it's ready to be exported. But on the last second, you're like, okay, that hi-hat, you know, that hi-hat, I really don't like the hi-hat. It should be like quantized on a triplet. Okay? A triplet. Or even a dotted, for all that matters. Once you do that, here in this event, all the events will follow. So you'll only have to do it in one event. That goes for everything that you do in terms as in editing, you know, just delete these, and here they're also deleted. Okay, so ghost copy can be a real huge time saver when you know when to use it, such as percussions and drum. You know, it's very cool to create those ghost copies.
Is it possible in the 7?
Yes. It's really an old trick.
No, so he
well, just ask him the questions. Okay, from now on. Yes. Okay, so let's just go ahead and see. You know, I'm really liking this song already. You know, but I want to like create like a little idea, you know, like something I can work with. So now I'll go ahead and grab one of my loop sets. And you know, if you're lucky as me and you work with Steinberg, you will have a lot of presets. Please don't hate me. Please don't, you know. But it's really fun because right here you will see I have like 10,000, and it's only because it's limited to 10. I have tens and tens and thousands of sounds, and of course working with the media bay is really a nice way to narrow down what I want to look for. I might be looking for an organ, but have like 5-6 instruments that contains organs. So the media bay will be a cool way for me to look for organs without actually having to create all those instruments. So let's just take a look here. Okay, so now it gets really fun. Because if you look closely, you will see that the tempo of this wave file is on 125 beats per minute, but my project is on 120 and it just works fine. Okay, so let's just see. I'll double click this because I actually really love this sound here. Okay. You know, then comes the part where I get up and start dancing in my studio for a couple of hours, and then really when I really like decide, okay, this is something I want to continue working with, you know, I go and finish it. It's very important. You should always feel like, you know, how you say it, like you should feel energetic to work on a project, okay? Because how many of you create a project and be like, oh yes, this is it, and then next morning you listen to it and you're like, oh no, this is crap. Okay? Yes? So always make sure you can dance to it a couple of hours. Okay? So if you can dance to it a couple of hours, then mostly it's a go. Yes? So this is very cool because even though it's a wave form, when I change the project tempo now, the wave file, it follows. And if you're one of those persons that works a lot with wave loops, drums, or whatever samples, or perhaps you're doing advertisements, you know, how to do this is very easy. If you record it like a bass line and you already know which tempo you recorded it in, all you'll have to do is go inside of the sample editor and assign the tempo to the wave file, and then turn on musical mode. Once you do that, a piece of metadata gets attached to the wave file, and Media Bay will recognize it as okay, this piece of wave is so and so tempo, so it will be put in musical mode, and you can recognize the musical mode when it has like that musical note on it. And you will see a W for the warp, which means it gets warped when you change the tempo. So that is also a very cool thing. Okay, let's take it back. So the other night I was, you know, playing around with a thing, and I was like, let me just check out, you know, that new effect, like the loop mesh effect here. And wow, I was all night in my studio try to act like I'm Duffy Gedda, because now every song, you know, perhaps you've been trying all those years to get a #1 hit. Okay, the one thing you're missing, your project, the one thing it's missing is a tape stop. Okay, so I suggest you guys, when you get home, please don't tell anybody I told you. Just add some tape stops to your project, and you'll have that #1 hit, okay? Because we all love the tape stop. Yes, don't you love it? I mean, again. Yes, you know, please don't tell this is the new secret, okay? Every now and then, there's some industry inside secret that I'm sharing with you guys. So with the loop mesh effects, basically you can add like stutters, you can rewind, you can change the grid, or act like you're actual DJ. And the cool thing about this is that you can, of course, fully automate this. And if you're a rapper like me that loves cursing, but needs to create, you know, radio edits and pull out all the cursing, this is a very cool, creative way to do so. And the cool thing about it is also that you can link this to a MIDI track, and thus, let me just show you guys. I created a MIDI track, and then right here in the output routing, I will go and select the alloyed effect. Now that I've done so, if I'm not mistaken, let's just see, am I mistaken? No, let's just bring it out. I should be able to play it now on my keyboard. And once you start doing this, then it all goes downhill from there, because like I told you guys, it's very addictive. You'll actually want to think like you're David Guetta in your studio. So the loop mesh effects is one cool effect. And where does it come from? Because that's a question. I mean, the whole week, everywhere I went, and people was like, oh wow, loop mesh, cool. Loop mesh, it does ring a bell, but what is it? Okay. The loop mesh is actually just an instrument that's been here since Cubase 5, actually. So let's just take a look at how it looks. This is how it looks. We even has an iPad app for it. Okay, and basically, let's just load a preset here. See how it sounds like. And the cool thing about it is, the idea behind it is that every sample you load up in the loop mesh gets sliced on hit points, and with these levels here you can decide how present that sample will be. And you know, as you can see, it lights up or lights down as you have patterns. So you have these types of patterns here, and over here you have a section where you find the performance controls and the beautiful tape stop. Okay, so over here you find the controls, and basically it's a really cool instrument. Why? Because you can also let's just see, you can also load up your own instruments, and then it really gets fun. Okay, so if you start adding drums to it, and you can really, it just start flipping the whole sample. Okay, and the more sample you add to it, you know, the more complexer it gets. So it's a really cool instrument. You should check it out. If you're already on Cubase 5, when you get home, check out the loop mesh. I'm sure you will be ending up in your studio dancing for a couple of hours before deciding to go to the next stop. Okay, so one other cool thing I'd like to show you guys is the Groove Agent SC4, and it's my best, yes, my new friend. So let me just bring out my little friend. the Groove Agent SC4, you know, it comes with a familiar like MPC layout, and I will show you guys why it's such fun to work with this. Just load up a preset here. Good. So basically you have 16 pads, you know, it will come with over hundreds of presets, you know, and the drum sounds are really cool. As you can see, this bass kick, this bass drum here, you know, it's a WAV file, okay? Which means I can then go in and start altering and add an envelope, for instance, on the pitch. And I can really just take it all the way to, I don't know. Yeah, I could do some crazy stuff with it. And people was asking me like, okay, very cool, the envelope, but how long does it work? Well, endlessly. And you can add up to 128 notches on the envelope. Notches is this, these little square things you see here. You can add up to 120 of them. Okay, so let's just zoom out and see how this envelope looks like. Very cool. Yes, my signature on my own very signature sound kick here. So, of course, this also applies on the filter where I can select a tube drive, for instance, and start playing around with the cutoff and the resonance and just really create an envelope that's you know, really cool. And of course, when I'm done with that sound, I can also save it as a preset, you know. So when you spend hours trying to create that signature type of kick, you know, you can also save it. So that is very cool. You will have the amplifier section and of course the sample section where you can really go in the sample and start chopping it up and whatnot, and then it will be saved. So it's sounding really cool actually. I might save this one. Yes. Okay. So why is the Groove Agent SC4 so cool, other than that it's a drum machine? Well, I will show you now. If I just load up my preset again. Because normally when I start out with a project, you know, I might go ahead and start just bring out my pads and just start drumming and record this. And of course, let's just see. Yeah, put a click on it. Okay, so this is the way I normally work, and then I just go and add some. Okay, so, you know, the way I used to work was like, okay, now I have all this in one event, but of course I want to have control of it. So then I would go to the MIDI part and dissolve the parts and just have them spread it out accordingly. Let's just take a minute, you know, and have all the separate tracks out of it. But it really meant that I would make several instances of the Groove Agent SC4. Okay, so right now with just one drum loop, I already created 4 instances of Groove Agent SC4. Already taken up a lot of. Why do I do this? Of course, because I want to have absolute control when it comes to the mixing part of it. I want to level the bass, the kick, the snare, you know, and I want to level out. I want to add like equalization on the hi-hat, but add reverb to the snare. So I just want to process them like on a separate level from each other. But the cool thing about the Groove Agent SE4 now is, oh, just bring it out here, is that I can now utilize the multiple outputs that an instrument track has to offer. So if I go to the kick shaboom here, to the main, right here is where you do the routing. So the clap will go to 2, and the fluffy will go to 3, and I don't know, I just use another. This one right here, the perk talk, is going to 4. I then activate the outputs in my inspector, and voila. I now created separate tracks. I can add inserts. Oh, let me just kill that click for a moment. And as you can see, I can now start leveling the kick, and you know, it's just one event, and it's one instant of Groove Agent, and it's really cool because I totally have control of what I'm doing to, let's say, for instance, the kick. You know, I can process the snare and add like reverb to it and whatnot, or I can now go and start creating my own drum loops. Okay, because obviously this is like a slow tempo kind of feel. You know, I'm already feeling, you know, the vibe of it. But sometimes I might want to start out on a 95 beats per minute, and that would take a whole nother approach of the programming of the drums, of course. So I could start creating drum loops, MIDI loops for myself that I can start using. Like if I feel like working on an 80 beats per minute type of flow, I have some MIDI loops I can approach, and I'm already ready set to go. So basically there are a couple of ways I can go about that, and I could go into the pattern section here where I just drag and drop, and over here I now have my pattern. It could be a pattern I've been working on for a couple of hours, okay? And I already have it here, and I can then save this pattern and just bring it up the next time I want to work with it. Okay, so that is a very cool feature that you will find in the Groove Agent SE4. So let's just bring up the tempo a little bit, and I'll show you guys how to create a MIDI loop, you know, because it's cool to find it, but let's just show you guys how to create one. Okay, pattern. Let's just bring out a preset. Very cool about the pattern section that you can really mess around with the presets if you really don't have time, or you just want to be real quick. Let's just go ahead and see the hip hop kit, for instance, the grooves. You will find these grooves here, and the cool thing about it is that you have variations. So, you know, if you find something you like, all you have to do is drag and drop it. And now you can start editing, you know, if you don't really like the groove, or you just want to add some minor adjustments to it. This is very cool. Let's just see how I can create a MIDI loop. And what I need for this is to tell me, okay, the snare needs to go to 2. The head fluffy 3. Okay, so let's just try to create not only a MIDI loop, but in the process create something with a signature sound. Okay, we all hear that, you know, this is another secret inside secret. I'm telling you guys, you should have a signature sound. The first 5-6 seconds you hear a Metallica song, you know it's Metallica. If you hear ABBA, the first 3 seconds alone will just blow it away. Like, oh, this is ABBA. Why? Because they use a signature sound. They have some specific things they go about to achieve that sound, you know, and they won't give you the secret. Well, tonight I will try to unveil what goes behind the signature sound. Okay, so I have here my kick, and I will level it out a bit, and I'll just go crazy on this one. Okay, and first thing I'm thinking is I want to add a distortion to the kick, you know, to just make it a sort of like a industrial kind of a kick. So I could go and use a distortion because I want to add distortion, but no, I'm just going crazy here. I'm gonna add an amp simulator to do the job. Yes, you see, sometimes people, you need to be outrageous. Okay, so now I just added an amp rack, and I'll just scroll through the presets, and yeah, it's very funny. He started laughing. Yes, doesn't matter. Okay, I got this. Listen, nothing. This is absolutely marvelous right there. I mean, I could have used a distortion, but no, it's my signature sound, okay, mister? And I'm sharing the secret, and you're laughing at my secret. And it's not very kind of you, sir. But, okay, I'm just trying to bring you guys to the next level. So on the snare, I'll add a delay. And people, if you're still on 5, look at how swiftly I'm coming up with these presets, you know, like I'm just typing it in. Okay, I don't have to look in menus of menus of menus of menus. You know, I'm just typing it in, and of course, right here I have my mono delay. So let's just go on the 16th and drop down the feedback a bit. Oh yeah. Now to top it all off, I'm gonna add some reverb to the hi-hat, and for that I'm gonna look to the revelation, because this right here is the revelation, okay? The complex echoes, really, really nice. You should really, if you have these instruments, if you have time but you're not feeling creative, take time to really check out the presets you have, man. You have over like 3,000 presets that comes in Cubase, a full version. People, please, don't sleep on what you have. You might want a Porsche, but you're already having a Ferrari in your driveway. I mean, you know. So let's just take a look at the, yeah. Look at how complex this reverb is, okay? So now I will give you the secret, and I know where you all live because you signed up, okay? This is my drum loop. The next 100 sounds, I'm gonna use this particular drum loop. Duffy Get already called me last week. He wanted to use this. I was like, no, it's my time to shine now. Okay, so I'm gonna use this for like 100 songs and just bore you the hell with it. And after that, I'll just come up with a new signature drum loop and make 100 songs with that same drum loop. Okay, but the next time you hear this on the radio, you know it's me. Okay, the very first second. Okay, he'll think, oh, Emprek, every time you hear that. Okay, so yes. Okay, now that I just did that, all I have to do is go to the file, export, and select MIDI file. And no, sorry, it's not a MIDI file I want to export. I want to export the MIDI loop of it. So you give it your name and you add some values, and the next time you really, you know, perhaps you had a little downtime, not enough hits, you can always go back to your beloved drum loop that worked so well for you in the past. I called it crazy, distorted, because it is distorted and it is pretty crazy. So double click it, and right here, ladies and gentlemen, you have your MIDI loop which you can utilize, and it's ready there, ready to use for the next hundreds of songs that you want to create. Okay, so this is how it's easy you create a MIDI loop. And of course, you know, I'm just joking. You can do it for like a bass line, or you could do it for all types of stuff. If it involves MIDI, you know, you can save it as a loop and just try to create it like percussions or drums or whatever. So this is a very cool way to use the MIDI loops. Okay, so this is the second part, and the second part I'm going a little bit more inside of some basic mixing techniques. I'm sure you guys will be able to appreciate it, even if mixing is your thing. You've been doing it for 40 years, you know. I mean, see it as a refreshing core, or if you don't know how a compressor works, like I do still sometimes. No, I'm kidding. If you don't know how a compressor works or whatnot, this is the part for you. So I have a project here which I created for this demo tour, and it's a part of me, and let's just take a listen to it and see how it sounds like.
Just how low it gets, it's over, but they're just trying to get right. So with a high sip of the yak, click of the hip, can't you see your brother trying to get right? Don't know just how low it gets, it's over, brother just trying to get right. So with a high sip of the yak, click of the hip, can't you see your brother trying to get right? Love, shit, is this what you call love? Now I don't know about that, but this sucks. So I'm like, what's up, bitch? I'm only fine, but get your mind made up. Oh, I can hear you asking, sure, I'll be glad to answer. You're the one that I ever wanted, more than some ever more, and nothing else matters. Oh, could never compare to you. I'm a hard-headed bastard, true, but I will give everything in the game. My strength invested in yo. So where did our passion go? I sit and I wonder how to respond to the mess I am bargaining for. If less is more, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, to death do I start. Now look at this mess and face I'll stick. Gave you my all, it's never enough. So when you say you don't love me no more, it's like I got shot. I'm in the heart with a 4-4. No, can't cope anymore. Need to get up, I can seem to remember one battle and false and getting stuck like there's no tomorrow. That's all I'm asking for. Don't know just how low it gets, it's over, but they're just trying to get right.
Okay, so I will show you guys how this project came to existence. Okay, so it just started off with a simple moment of boredom. Okay, I was in the plane, didn't know what to do with my time. It was a 2-hour flight, and I just grabbed my iPad, and luckily we have this app now in the app stores, and it's called Cubase. And if you look carefully, you know, it's the beat right here. This is where it all originated from, inside of my Cubase. And you know the drill. I came home, I imported it inside of my Cubase. It's done really easily. Then I spent a couple of hours dancing in the studio, of course. Yes, I need to know sure if this is something I want to continue working with. And you know, after the couple of hours, I was like, okay, let's write some lyrics to it. I recorded it, and that was that. But then comes the hard part, you know, because once you've done recording your last note or your last vocal, the creativity part of it just stops somewhat, you know, in your project. Now it's not about creativity anymore. It's about knowing what to do. And well, it comes to the mixing. And when it comes to mixing, there are 3 things that are important, of course, and that's the EQ, the inserts, and your sense. Okay, that's all you need to remember. But there are a certain way you should start working on the project. And for me, the first thing I do when I have a project is putting all the tracks and categorize them, you know, start putting them in folders. You know, I was started as a young boy when I was trying to study for a carpenter. You know, you should keep your working place clean. You know, it will prevent you from stepping on a nail or something, you know. So basically my drums, you know, I lay them out and basically I just grab them all, you know, and be like right mouse click and move tracks, move selected tracks to new folder. It gets added to a folder. And of course, you know, I do the same with my computer is starting to act somewhat slow. Don't know why exactly, but yes, I'm also recording QuickTime in the background, so it could be a little bit too much. But basically, I do also the same with the chorus, and also here I have like this verse intro. So I really categorize and try to keep my working space, you know, tidy and neat. And just to be real sure that things don't start, you know, I will try to start up my project again, just to be absolutely sure. Okay, so I start then categorizing everything, and once I've done that, once I start putting everything in folders, the next step I take is just start routing all the things, you know, because of obviously I want my my drums to be routed to a group bus, a group channel as we call it in Cubase. Just a second here. Yes. So, you know, why do I work with group channels on the on the drums, for instance? You know, because I want to start processing the drums and I want to add compression to it. So I could go ahead and add a compression to the hi-hat, add a compression to the kick, to the snare and whatnot. But of course, you will get the picture soon that if you really apply effects on every single track, your computer just die on you. Okay, so when you start playing back, it starts playing back with some glitches and whatnot. So basically, you just route out your tracks, and so quick notice here. I think the QuickTime is a bit too much on the. It's been recording for quite a while now.
So just stop it and start it again and see if it's a file size. Vi spelar in det för att kunna lägga
I'll just see how far they'll take us. Okay, so one cool thing about Cubase 7.5 is that I can go to the mix console and I can select all these tracks, okay, and just right mouse click and just say like add group channel to select the channels. That is very cool. Why? Because now I don't have to do it manually. You know, as in you could have a track where you have a chorus of 16 tracks and doing it manually. You know, it's just wasting your time. Actually, just right now a group channel gets created for me. I call it a drum bus. You know, and the hi-hat, the kick, the clip, and the snare are routed to that drum bus. So let's just kill out the inserts of the master output and listen to the drums. So this is the drums right now, and as you can see, all these sounds are being routed to the drum bus, which is with the blue button here. And now I can start leveling my drums, because that's very important, you know, to start leveling. And in this case, I used a clip and a snare layered, and this is really easy. Actually, sometimes I will use up to 6-7 using percussions, using all types of additional sounds to really create a nice drum loop. And then I will start playing with the panning also, you know, so that is very cool, you know, put the cymbal on a right little like 35 and just get all Picasso on the panning, you know. Sometimes you just need to be, you know, just do whatever you feels like, okay? Yeah?
Crazy.
Oh, just act crazy, be outrageous, yes. Okay, so after I've done so, you know, I will make sure that at this level, you know, and if you take a closer look to the meter here, I will make sure that my volume is very low still, because at this moment it's absolutely no thing to be playing in loudness. I just want everything to have its own place, you know, like the snare is not too loud and the kick is good audible. So right now I'm on -13 if you look closely to the peak max. -13, okay, with a little swing to -10 there. So then I will start messing around with some EQ, okay? So basically, when it comes to EQing, you know, you should know that every instrument has its own little spot where he lives happily ever after, okay? There is a spot for every instrument sound in the frequency range, and as you may know, you know, the frequency range is from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, and you know, there's a spot for every little human being or for every little sound in your song. So you should be very careful where to where to make space for that sound, okay? And if you really are interested with this, you know, you can Google frequency range for instruments, and you will get like a sketch. And you will find, okay, so the kick sits at approximately that space. The piano is somewhere in the mid-range, your vocals, you know, so everything has its own little spot. Then again, it's not a golden rule, you know. There will be exceptions. Not every kick is the same kick. Not every voice is the same voice. Not every piano is the same piano. So really you should start off by doing low cuts on, for instance, instruments that doesn't have low frequencies to begin with, such as the hi-hat. As you can see, I applied a low cut on the hi-hat, and for some reason also there is some activity going on here in the low, you know, but you're not hearing it, but still it's there, okay? So just be sure, make safe, and just cut it out. And even for the hi-hat, I could even, you know, somebody told me the other day, like, oh, you're being really, you know, I even go even more to the extreme, because indeed I could go and really there comes a point where the sound starts altering, okay? So right around here, the hi-hat is still the same hi-hat, with difference that all the noise that's in this area is cut out, okay? So that is very important. Why is it very important? It just is, okay? Okay, so let's just take a look at the kick. Okay, so what I've done with the kick is also apply a low cut to it. And some people might go, yes, I apply low cut, absolutely everything. You should be careful when doing that to a kick, because it is, of course, if I just cut this out, you should be careful not to take all the depth out of the kick. You know, if you really apply a low cut on a 60 hertz on this low kick, and if you look, the kick is active already on 50 hertz, okay? So you don't want to change the whole character of the kick. So I just went a little bit easy on the low cut here, but I added some here in the third band across in the mid range, somewhere across 1.54. Why did I do that? It's to add presence, okay? So basically, if you're in a situation where you are not actually quite hearing the kick all too good, don't go and just put up the volume because you'll screw up your mix. You should rather look if you can add in frequency, and adding in frequency can be, you know, a world of difference, you know. So, and right here I dipped a bit, and I will come to that later on. So the clap, that's the same here, and the snare also. And then what I'll do is just create a reference, you know, I'll create a send effects. Okay, I could easily create send effects. And I just, you know, always work with reference, by the way. And I just, yeah, you just mix in the amount of reverb you want on this particular snare. And I must say that all the sounds that you're hearing now is absolutely no third-party plugins, of course. To begin with, it just came out of my iPad. I've changed nothing on the instruments. The same instruments that was in the iPad are just basically, of course, Halion Sonic SE. So I didn't change the presets when I imported it inside of my Cubase. Okay, so now that I'm happy with the compression, happy with the EQ and the levels, I might add some compression to it. And basically, the compression is very gentle at this stage. It's just very basic, actually. And I used a preset. Yeah, why, you know, try to reinvent the wheel? You know, when you have presets, Cubase comes with lots of presets, people. Like I told you guys, if you don't know what the threshold is or the ratio or what the compressor even does, if you're one of those persons that just uses a compressor because everyone uses a compressor, you know, searching through those presets might actually do the trick for you, okay? You will find presets for vocals or for drums, for bass, guitar. So really try to play around with those presets. If you find one of your liking, you can also do some tweaking and then save it as your own preset to find later. So these are really just really time-consuming tips that I'm giving you guys. Okay, so basically the compressor is very, you know, nothing all too special. I may have exaggerated the ratio a bit, but it's hip-hop, you know. I want to flat it out as many as possible, but still keep the dynamics. So once I've done compressing it, we will now see that my peak max is around -12, -11.5, and then comes the trick. Then I use something called the NY compressor, the New York compressor. The New York compression is basically just a way of doing parallel compression. So I will create a new group channel. In that group channel, I add a compressor. And if we take a look at that compressor, I'm compressing the hell out of it, okay? As you see, the ratio is really high. The makeup is really high. The threshold is very low, okay? So at this point, I'm actually making a limiter out of the compressor, okay? And this is something that is very common in modern day music. You know, I would like to say, yeah, hip hop, but let's be honest. You know, 90% of the music we listen on the radio today, okay, 70% is hip hop. I mean, the drums, it's hip hop, okay? So let's not forget about that. You might say, okay, but you're doing hip hop. Well, just try it out at home for yourself, and you will see that it will add some of that thickness to your drums. Okay, so dance music, whether it's heavy metal or just simple old rock and roll, 60 years, the 60s style. Add some New York compression to it, and your drums will come to life. And I will show you how it sounds like with and without New York compression. Let's just take a look at the mix console here. Take a look at the peak max, and now with New York compression. Without. Okay, so basically what I did is really simple. I created a group channel, added a compressor to it, okay, inserted a compressor to it, then went to the drum bus, and by sense I selected New York compression, and this is where I just level in the amount of New York compression I want to add to the or the amount of level that I'm sending to the New York compression. Okay. So right now I'm very happy with my drums. I mean, it's already sounding really cool, but I'm still at this stage. I'm still like still like -3 away from 0 decibels, okay? Because staying far away from here is what you want to do at this stage. You want to keep that headroom going, because if you already are playing at the 0 right now, once your bass starts getting into place and your vocals and the instruments and whatnot, I mean, you're totally far away from home. So at this stage, it's very important to keep it your levels a bit low. We'll come back to that later on the master output and add a limiter to it and just bring it all up together. Okay, so next stage now would be, sir, what would you do if you're working on your project? What instrument would you go ahead and have a play with?
Bass.
Bass. Yeah, the bass. You said it real cool. Bass. Yeah. The bass. Yes, the bass, you know, because I just consider the drums as being the skeleton of my project, and the bass is most definitely the spine, okay? So I must make sure that's in order for me before I can continue with the rest of my song. So let's just take a look at the bass right here. And what I did with the bass is basically add a simple compressor to it. Let's take a look on the EQing, what I did. If we take a closer look, yes, where I did a low cut on the hi-hat because it doesn't contain any low frequencies, I applied a high cut on the bass because the bass doesn't have high frequencies, you know. So you need to strip out everything that is not needed at this stage, okay? Why? Well, like I said, every instrument has its own little spot where it lives inside of the frequency range, and it's different for every song. So you should really go ahead and right in this stage when you're with the drums and with the bass, you're already giving, you know, the drums its own little space and the bass its own little space. And like I said, you know, if you take a closer look here, I added somewhat around the around the 187 hertz, and I did that because I want to give the bass a little bit more love on the low than the kick. Okay, so I added to the bass, but I slimmed down on the kick because the kick and the bass, they're pretty much like me and my guitar player. We are the best of friends. We are the worst enemies. Okay. You should see us in the rehearsing room sometimes, breaking glasses and beer bottles, and you know. But afterwards, we'll just hug each other and say we love each other and cry, and but we make the best of music together. Okay, so can't live without them, can't live with them. You know, so you need to give the bass. Sometimes you will have to be like, okay, I love you a bit more. And in this case, I was like, I love the bass a bit more than the kick, but it's not over yet because, you know, I gave the bass a little bit more love, but then I added a compressor and the compressor, I activated the side chain to it. And so when I went to the kick, you know, that's how I keep my girls all, you know, like, I love you more, baby. No, I love you more, baby. But without they even knowing, I just play my, no, I'm not really like that. It's just a silly example I'm using right now. But, you know, look at the bass and the kick. And as soon as the kick sets in here, you know, this is the compressor that's on the bass. The side chain will apply a duck effect. The kick will trigger a duck effect on the bass. So the bass now thinks, yes, I'm in charge. I have the depth. I have body. And then comes the kick. Every time the kicks comes along, you know, the kick is standing out of the bass. So that's basically what you do with the side chain. It's not really audible, but basically, you know, you can hear the bass drop down in volume every time the kick sets in. And you could really go crazy on it. You know, if you play around with these settings here, you know, you can really, especially if you're doing like dance music, sidechain and dance music, they go together like this. What other cases could it be useful? You know, also it could be useful in heavy metal music, where, you know, you have where you want to keep the focus on the drums, and so sidechain is something you should really can really help you out, you know, because often when I don't use the sidechain, my mind switches all the time. I'm mixing out and I'm like, okay, but let's take a look at the mix console. I might go like, okay, but no, the bass is loud now, so I might add a little more volume to the kick, and then I'll be like, oh, but now the bass is too soft, so I add a little more volume to the bass. So then it's like a vicious circle, and in the end, it's all too loud, and I won't notice until the next day when I open up my project and be like, yes, this is a wonderful mix, you know, let's just go and dance. And before we start dancing, you just realize, oh wow, I just killed my whole mix. I need to start all over again. So using the sidechain could be a really time saver. I also use it in the vintage string. You know, this is my lead melody, so to speak. And it's as easy as going to the kick and audio sense, and as soon as you activate the sidechain option in a plugin, you know, this little menu gets added to the sense. It's called sidechains, and you will see all the instruments that has the compressor or the sidechain added to the compressors or the effects. So right now, yeah. Basically, right now I'm really done. When I pass this stage, I'm really happy because I added perhaps a little compression to the vintage string, you know. But I'm really happy. If this sounds good, the rest doesn't matter all that much anymore. You know, the key of mixing something is really just having elements in your songs that are not quite audible. You know, you should really be careful if you have, especially if you have like 3 guitars, okay, not to set the volume levels of all those 3 guitars on the same level, okay. You should really be a bit subtle with the volume settings, especially if we take a look here at the saw lead, for instance.
Don't know just how low it gets, it's over.
Like the saw lead, it's a bit too loud for my opinion at this stage. The saw lead is this instrument here. I might bring it down a bit. just not quite can hear it. But when I'm muted, you'll notice, hey, something is missing, but you're not quite sure. You know, that's how life is. You know, pretty amazing. Some things you just take for granted, and you only start missing it when it's not there. Okay, so that's how you should approach your mix also. So like I said, you start leveling out the rest of the instruments and try to make something really cool. And this is just a small project. Not many instruments are being used in this one. But if you have a lot of instruments, you know, play with those panning, you know, try to create a wider stereo image. Don't be afraid to put that cymbal all the way to the left, you know, and put your guitar like somewhere here. And, you know, just try to visualize like from left to right, like try to visualize like, you know, okay, my bass is there and, you know, my drummer is somewhere in the back, you know. So it can help to visualize when it comes to panning, you know. Because when you start listening to it, and I don't know about you guys, but 99% of your music will eventually be heard through headphones, you know. I mean, I don't see that many people anymore that has a hi-fi stereo set at their home. If they have one, it's coming out of the computer speakers. So don't want to break your hopes, you know, but that's how your music will be listened to. So you could playing with those panning, you know, once you put in those headphones, you can really start seeing the dimension. And don't be afraid when you're mixing to use headphones as a reference. Don't mix with your headphones, but it's very cool to see if it really sounds good even with the headphones. Okay, so now we'll go to the most difficult part. Because now that the beat is all set, you know, we'll have to do something about the vocals. And I have the vocals here, and
Don't know just how low it gets, and so but they're just trying to get right. So could I ask it, but they act like it, can't you see your brother trying to get right.
So usually I start off with the chorus because my verse is just one track, so nothing really exciting going on there. But the chorus, of course, it might consist of 8 tracks, but it might consist out of 16. If I have a singer coming in, like a girl or a fellow, he might sing up to 16, 18 tracks, you know, do all types of harmonies and pitch and so basically that is, it could be really upsetting if you're mixing that, but you should see it as an advantage to really create something really nice. Because just as the beat, you know, all these tracks you're hearing right here in the chorus,
Don't know just how low it gets, and so
you could never have too many tracks, okay? This allows you to be really free. Let's just take a look at the mix console.
Don't know just how low it gets.
So I have 2 lead vocals, like a left and a right, and those are my lead, and they are the loudest. I'll just mute out the rest of these.
Low it gets, and so a brother just trying to. So could I have sip of the yak, click of the M, can't you see your brother trying to get right.
And I'm panning them out, and I'm not simply just recording one take and copying the audio file to the right side, because doing that will do absolutely nothing but just add more loudness. You know, it really needs to be actual genuine takes for it to like, if you pan it on left and right, that you hear differences in them. The slightly differences that you're hearing from it, that is what adds the harmony to it.
Don't know just how low it.
Then I might add something like this.
Don't know just how low it gets, and so a brother just trying to get right.
Some like a bit more low, and then I might add left and the right, but in another pitch, or at least I try to.
Don't know just how low it gets.
I'm not a singer, so please, you don't have to break my bubble. I already broken it. Okay, I'm sure I won't make it in so you think you can, or I don't know. In fact, I don't know all the shows that are out there right there. But then I add just some more, and then to top it off, you know, to give it that extra dimension, I add this.
Don't know just how low
Lovely.
it gets, and so
Yes, sir, it's the amp rack. Okay, but the key is, of course, when you play the whole thing, you're not hearing all these elements that I added.
Don't know just how low it
You just know it sounds full. Okay, so that is the key when leveling different types of things, you know. You're not actually hearing me singing in another pitch. But when I mute it, you will notice it missing.
Don't know just how low it gets, and so a brother just trying to get right. So could I have sip of the yak?
So that is the key, actually, you know, to not be afraid to keep things not quite audible. So after I've done the leveling of this, of course, I will go to my mix console, select the channels, you know, right mouse click, add a group bus to it, and on the chorus bus, I add some effects to it, you know. Right at this stage, I haven't done no equalization whatsoever. All the equalization gets done on the chorus bus. So let's take a look at the chorus bus and what I've did.
Don't know just how low it gets.
I'll be really honest with you guys.
Don't know just how
Because
low
on
it gets, and
this
so
vocal, on this particular vocal, I used presets, okay? Because you will find equalizer presets, but also in the channel strip, you will find presets, you know, and let's just take a look at here. Vocals. You know, all different types of presets.
don't know just how low it gets, and so a brother just trying to get right. So could I have sip of the act like the M?
So you could just scroll, you know, if you never mixed in your whole life, you could just scroll through these presets. They are configured by Alan Morgan, which is responsible for 9 Inch Nails, you know. He's a really cool mixing engineer. And he created all these presets, you know, so they're already cool. If it sounds good with your voice, why not? You know, I came, just scrolling through these presets, I came to the conclusion that the female country, for some reason, just absolutely goes marvelous with my voice. Don't know what it is, but actually, yeah.
Just how low it
I don't know which one.
So they're just trying
Yeah,
to get right,
the female country, and of course I couldn't come here to you guys and be like, you know, yes, I used the preset and it's called female country. No, I just went and did some tweaking to it and changed the signal chain a bit, and then I just saved it as my own preset, and now it's called far right chorus saturation, and this preset works absolutely marvelous with my voice. So now, when it comes to choruses, I don't have to look any further. This will already be cool for my voice, you know, and it also will add a bit to the signature sound I'm talking about, you know. Every time when you you hear my voice, you will hear my voice, you know. I mean, that's a signature sound right there. So I just changed the signal chain a bit, because in the strip, you know, when it comes to the signal chains of the instrument or the effects, you know, it does matter if your EQ position comes after the compressor or before the saturation. You know, it does have effect, you know, and whether or not it's something you should use, I always say, if you never tried it, you will never find out. you know. But sometimes you will notice like, oh, my EQ is very cool, but now that I've added a compression to it, you know, I've lost some of the highness of some of the high frequencies that I added to the EQ. So in that case, it might be handy to drop down the position after the compressor. So after the voice has been compressed, you then add some more highness or some high in the high range to your voice. So this is very cool. And basically, that's it. You know, to the voice, like I said, it's just one. So sometimes I might go and add a distortion, like an amp rack, to my voice. You know, and just you're the only ones that know about this. But yeah, it works fine with me. You know, and it's all about being outrageous. But let's just take it to another level right here. So let's just say, okay, and of course, you don't have to bust my bubble. I know I can't sing. But I've created this song and I played chords. Please don't ask me what chords did I use in this project, because I won't be able to tell you. And that is why me and my guitar man, my guitar player of my band, that's why we are such best of friends, because I will create the project and then it's time for him to do his little thing and he'll ask me, okay, so what scale did you use? And I'm like, scale? Yeah, what chords did you use? I'm like, I don't know, do something, play something. And he'll play something and he'll absolutely screw up my song and be like, yeah, this is how it should be because technically, and you know, he'll start throwing phrases at me and I'm like, yo, that might be all cool, but that's not how that's not my idea for this song. So one cool thing you could use, you know, to prevent you and other musicians to speak the language of Babel, you know, to keep it conform the musical language, you could use the chord track function that comes with Cubase. And let's just take a look. So basically, it's this, you know, I played it, but please don't ask me what chords did I use because I won't be able to tell you. And I don't have to be ashamed about it. I just think about Jimi Hendrix and I'm like, yes, there's still hope for me. So right here, I can go and press make chords. Okay, so when I press make chords, chord track gets created for me. And now I can totally see what chords did I use. Not can I only see the chords, I can tell other instruments to follow that information. Okay, so I can go to my warm pad, for instance, and be like, okay, warm pad, now I want you to follow the chord track. So even if I played something that's false or something, like a false note, I can now tell my warm pad to follow that chord track and thus keep my song in the same thing. Or, you know, having a singer out to your studio, you'll be like, yeah, I don't know what chords did I use, and she might not know neither, because you know, a lot of singers, unless you are really trained, you won't know to, if I tell you like, yeah, sing something in the F major 7th, you know, she'll look at you like, what? But you can use the scale information, you know. So let's just see. So now she knows at least what notes to hit, or you know, and what scale it's been used. I wish it could have helped with my part of the chorus. Like I told you guys, I can't sing, but it doesn't matter. And I will show you why. Because I have my song over here, and obviously, you know, I know now what chords did I use in my melody line. And if I take a closer look at my chorus, let's just go inside the sample editor and use the very audio function. You might see that I'm all over the place, except where I need to be, okay? Now, I told you guys, you know, every note has its own little happy place where it lives in the frequency range. Yes, that is true, but when it comes to the notes, you know, it could be handy if things are played in the same notes. So, yeah, unfortunately, you know, I don't know, but I really don't think this might help. So let's just say this was a singer I worked with, and she left the, she went home, and I tried to do my best, all the best I could with the song, and really just had to admit, like, okay, man, the song is sounding good, but when it comes to the chorus, it's false as hell. I could, my cat could do a better job at singing the chorus. So right now, I could go and be like, you know what? I don't want to offend her, so I'll just go ahead and create a new version, and I'll just go ahead and sing it myself. Perhaps I can sing it myself, or, invite somebody else. But the cool thing about it is that these tracks, all the settings, like the routing, the inserts, and all, it all stays there. So I can just now just swiftly swing over, sing it again, or perhaps the only thing that was wrong with the chorus was this little voice here. This little track was all false, so I just delete it, and now it sounds great. The next time the singer is in the building, I'm like, yes, I did the song, listen to it. I'm happy with it, but I really think this take is better. So just see how swiftly I'm switching between those versions, as in normally you would have to do and go mute. You could copy those tracks, then mute them, and then go swiftly and be like solo them, and time consuming. Now you can just go ahead and switch between those tracks. It could be like a guitar solo, or it could be a MIDI file, so you can apply it on a MIDI file, on a signature track, on a MIDI track, audio, on a tempo track. If you're not sure whether to stick with 120 or 100, now you don't have to actually create another project, close this one down, open that other one up to check. You can easily switch back and forth. Or you could easily, as I showed you guys here, like, okay, wow, this is really something. I can now do some pitch correction, okay, and be like, well, that song we did, yes. Well, this is the original version. Let's take a listen.
Don't know just how low it gets. It's over, but they're just trying to get right.
Or
so when I sip of the yak, pick it in. Can't you see I'm running, trying to get right, Don't know just how low it gets. It's over, but they're just trying to get right.
all of a sudden I can sing. All of a sudden I'm the best singer in the world, and if Rihanna can get away with it, why can't I? So yes, I mean, now I've just did and repitched all the vocals in the right notes because of the chord track. I know now which chords I used, which notes, and so I can now go ahead and create a real nice harmony on all those tracks, and just by straightening out the pitch, as you can see here, straighten pitch, I take out the vibrato out of the voice, which gives it that robotic type of feel to it. Okay? Very easy. So that is the track version, I can already see people noting down notes like, oh yes, finally. So, what do I have left? Well, not much. I have the re-record mode, for my guitar man. He's really picky, like all the time. And when we record, we'll just be recording for 3 seconds, and he already knows, like he's some sort of psychic. Like, oh no, this is bad. Do it again. And I'm like, come on, man, just let it play. Come on. Perhaps I can use some of it, and just stop it. And he'd be like, no, one take. Okay, so basically, what would that mean? That would mean I would have to press record, start recording, and like, no, let's start over again. I'm like, come on, man, really? So I'll have to delete this one, okay? And I have the setting that the transporter gets back, or the line gets back to the starting point, but some of you might have it on an option that it just stays where it is. So you'll have to put the locator back to the starting point, you know, and press record again. Now with the re-record mode, all you have to do is, and I can already see his face, he'll be like, okay, man. Okay, now let's start over again. And I'm like, yeah, are you ready? And he'll be like, oh, no, I'm, okay, yes. So, of course, if you have a large session, you know, also, I do it all the time also, man. When I record my verses, one word is pronounced wrong and I already know it needs another take. So just pressing the record button again, you know, really save up time if you're really working on a large project. One other cool thing I would like to show you guys is the guitar amp classics that comes inside of the interfaces that we have, the UR44, UR28M, and the UR824. You know, these interfaces comes with built-in DSP processors. Okay, so what does that mean, really? Well, it means that you can, you know, I don't know if you guys ever tried to record with reverb and compression already added as a plugin. You know, once you do that, you get latency. That's unfortunately, you know, it's the 21st century, but still, that's how it is. So, coming with a built-in DSP processor, it means that actually you have a processor here taking care of the reverb, taking care of the compression. So when you record, you know, the compression gets added right here and then goes into your computer. So your computer gets the signal already with compression added to it. So you can see right here in my line in, you know, I can choose to activate it and just have it on a sort of like a, yeah, how should I call it? Like when I plug in my headphone, I will hear the reverb and I will hear compression, but it records a dry signal, or I can choose to actually really record the whole thing with compression already added to it. And if we take a look here, you know, open the editor, it has like this compression with a sweet spot morph thing here where you can find, you know, or you can choose the presets. Like I told you guys, I'm a real fan of presets, you know. There are various presets you can use, and basically you already add compression and some equalizing to your sound. But now what is new is the clean crunch lead drive guitar amps, you know. Somehow my mouse pad is not selecting this. But you get the idea. You will now have like an a separated clean amp for your guitar, and your guitar man can now plug his guitar right in, you know, and doesn't have to worry about his cabinet or whatnot. He could just listen to himself with overdrive and whatnot, and you'll record a dry signal, giving you giving yourself like a dry, keeping yourself in control the whole time. Okay. So other cool thing I want to show you guys is the VST Connect. Because how does that work? Well, it works really easy. I have it here on my inserts, and I'll just go ahead and grab the VST Performer. The VST Performer here is an app. It's only 20 MB, and picture this: you went on vacation to Brazil, and you were lying on the beach and you came across this guitar player who is really, you never heard anything like it, okay? It's the best guitar player you ever heard in your life. So now you're back home, cold, rainy, snow, whatever, and you're totally reminiscing on Brazil, and you're like, I should, you know, give this man a call. And if he has an internet and an interface, he can plug in his guitar right here, or a microphone, in his interface on the other side of the world, and you will be at your home in your studio and call up this thing called VST Connect Performer. Once you connect, okay, you will have, it's basically Skype, but then for Cubase, okay? You will have visual contact. You can tell them, okay, perhaps you need to reposition the mic, you know, if it's a vocalist or something, and you'll be able to record over the internet. And here's the fun thing, you know, the performer on his end, he can totally add, you know, equalization, add compression, add some reverb. In other words, he can totally screw up his sound on his end, you know, but you will record the dry signal, so you will always stay in charge. So the VST Connect Performer is really this is the future is now kind of thing, you know, like this is already changing the way musicians and record companies are starting to work. You know, you can take for instance like some drummers are so, you know, famous, they get called in for every project or what's not, and they'll have to fly that guy in, pay for his hotel, and I don't know what kind of tech writer the guys have. He only wants like yellow M&Ms and purple, yeah, you never know. And well, basically now that's all in the past, because with the VST Connect Pro, which you can purchase separately, you can record up to 16 tracks. So if you have an interface with 16 inputs, you know, you can totally record a live drum setting over the internet, and all you will need is an Ethernet cable. Okay, so Wi-Fi won't cut it, but an Ethernet, a stable internet connection will do the trick, and you'll be able to record over the internet. So this is very cool. Actually, it's been yeah, it was an idea, concept of Charlie Steinberg himself. I mean, the man doesn't work with the company anymore, but still found time between chilling in the hangmat and playing golf on some remote island to come with this concept of the VST Connect. So this is really something cool. Okay, last but not least, what I have to show you guys is something called the control room. Anyone familiar with it? No? Yes? No? People are looking at me like, what?
I forgot to tell you, no one here speaks English at all.
Oh, really? oh, they're all just waiting till it gets aired on the YouTube and they just read the subtitles. Oh, okay. I was wondering, yes. Well, basically, the control room is a very cool function. You know, every large studio has this thing called the control room, obviously, where the desk is, and you have a recording room where the musicians chill and they play, and the recording engineer has this button and with a mic, and he can talk to the musicians. You know, like, okay, guitar man, that sucked, let's start over again. Or rapper, yes, that was the best take in the world, I love you so much. Or, you know, so basically with the studio function here, the control room, you can enable the control room. Oh man, it's giving me a hard time right now. And you can create up to 4 channels. Like, you can create a channel for the guitar man, for the performer, for the drummer, and for the bass. And what it actually does is that you can now in the mix console select a specific mix. Like the drummer, all he wants to hear is actually the bass. Okay, he doesn't want to hear that Van Halen crap thing in his headphone. Yeah, my guitar player, he's really something. Or he doesn't want to listen to me neither, you know, because I'll be all Tyler Perry on Steven Tyler on the microphone, just yelling in his ear. He'll be like, no, I don't want to hear it. So with the Q-Sense, basically, you can now be like, okay, so the verse goes to the performer, but it's not important for the bass. So let's drop down the verse a little bit for the bass man, okay? But for the guitar, perhaps it might be really, really interesting to hear the verse. So we'll just crank it up all the way maximum. So that's really a cool way for you to like utilize like a control room simulate a control room kind of a studio vibe right in your home. Okay, I use it all the time actually when I'm recording recording myself, because sometimes, you know, the mix that I have created on the mix console here doesn't work for me when I want to record. Perhaps I only want to hear to the drum or the bass, so I just put a lot of drum and bass on my headphone and a lot of myself, of my voice, and that will most of the time will do the work. So with that, I came to the end of this presentation. You're allowed to ask questions now. I hope, you know, you learned something, and if not, I know where you guys live. So thank you.